Hello, Eugene Smith here, and I am interviewing the virtual JP Jones. JP's avatar is here to fill in the blanks about the band and its origin. Hello Mr. Jones, may I call you JP?
Yes you may. JP is fine. Eugene, it is great to be here.
So JP, tell me a bit about your history. When did you first pick up the guitar?
I bought my first guitar in 1983 when I was on vacation with my family for $20 from a kid in Bangor, Maine. That first guitar was a real piece of work, no strings, but I had my first guitar. My folks thought I was crazy.
What was the first song you tried to play, do you remember?
Yes I did, because I didn't know anything about tuning and it only had 2 strings on it. The song was Billy Squier's Everybody Wants You.
Wow. So it's 1983. You are obviously a young black man and your first try was a Billy Squier song. How did you learn how to play guitar?
Yeah, kind of strange. Well, I did grow up in a conservative home, but you are influenced by your environment as much as your dreams. I wanted to be a great guitar player. Well, the guitar playing wasn't coming along very well. So I worked at summer odd jobs to purchase Doug Mark's Metal Method, a cassette-based learning system.
So you mean to tell me you have never had formal guitar lessons?
No, Doug Marks is my teacher. I owe everything to him. Now I also owe the fine authors and editors and writers at Guitar for the practicing musician and guitar player.
Interesting story. So Doug Marks would be your earliest influence on guitar?
Yes, Doug was. As was some of the guys I went to school with, Randy Noe and Paul Hatfield. They both were taking formal lessons and could play songs and were in bands.
So did you play in high school or junior high bands?
No, I didn't fit the profile for a rock and roll guitar player in the 1980s, so I just stayed home and practiced.
What do you mean by, didn't fit the profile?
It's really pretty simple. I picked up a guitar just around the time Quiet Riot and all bands cloned by them came out. Everyone had long hair, and they were white. Here I was a young black man, short hair. I was the opposite of what young teenagers were taught what a rock star should be.
How can you say that? There was Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, and Jimi Hendrix.
Well, those were all great guitar heroes of the past for me. The heroes of my generation were from the 80s. I didn't have a hero that looked like me. Not circa 1985.
So who were your influences when it came to playing guitar?
Everyone really. Eddie, Hendrix, Page, Clapton, Berry. But honestly, the 2 men who made me believe I could be a rock and roll guitar player were John Butcher and Tony McAlpine.
That's interesting. John Butcher and Tony McAlpine. Why was that? They are really 2 very different players.
Yes, but for me it was 2 guys in 1985 who looked like me. That was the key, and man what teachers they were. Then another guy comes along, Steve Vai.
What did Steve do? How was he an influence on you? I am not sure your playing would be in line with his.
Oh, first it was the magnificent playing on Eat 'Em and Smile and Skyscraper. But then Joe Satriani comes out and talks about Steve and Steve about Joe. What those 2 guys did was teach me how to record my own records, and all about the music business. So that's when I got enough money for a cheap mixer and 2 tape decks. Thus began my journey to record.
So let's fast forward to 1994, about 10 years later. What did you do?
I decided I wanted to become a composer after Steve and Joe talked about how important music instruction was. I enrolled in some classes at Indian Hills Community College.
A community college? That is interesting. Why a community college? Why not a music school?
Well, finances really, but I went there to learn and expand my knowledge of music theory, harmony, chords, and orchestration. So I joined the jazz band there. It was a year of joy. It was there I started my first band in Iowa, with Steve Jones, Jeff Leonard and Sam Long, Little Stevie. There are some clips on Facebook of us playing.
So after Little Stevie and your stint in college, what did you do?
I was working as an electrician, and trying to get into another band, which I answered an ad from 2 17-year-old kids, in the local music store. Shane Billings and Wes Conrad.
What was the name of that band and what did you play?
The band was Maniac All Rage and we played a lit of everything in the 90s: Anthrax, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Joe Satriani tunes. The band won a local battle of the bands.
What was the significance of this local battle of the bands?
Well, I became known in the local area after winning that contest. Maniacal Rage was done, but through that association with the contest I met the great Robert Lloyd Davis.
So what about this Robert Lloyd Davis? What did that encounter bring about?
He caught me in a local mall, told me who he was, and also told me that he wanted to be in a band with me. I had no idea who he was. He gave me some lyrics to read.
So did this start an immediate partnership?
No, it did not. You have to understand, I wasn't into really writing my own songs yet, but I had done a few. But about a year later a friend of ours, Chickworth, had gotten sick. So when my friend Chickworth got sick, I asked Robert, Jeff, and Steve to play some songs with me for a benefit concert. It went over great, and from there, after the benefit, I started looking for players to form a new band, and that's how I started JP's Eternia. Robert Lloyd on bass, Sarah Riedel on keyboards, Rodney Baker on drums.
What music did this band play? Were you similar to what you play today?
At that time I was very much into a progressive rock/metal mode. I loved Dream Theater, so did Rodney and Robert. Sarah was into Hammerstein, so that's what we did. But we also wrote our own music, and I released several CDs on the mp3.com distribution network, selling about 2,500 copies worldwide. Not a really big deal, but for me awesome, because I was making my own music, and selling it and doing everything as Steve Vai had described in the 1990 issue of Guitar World. He really showed how an 8-track and your imagination could turn you into a music business operator, instead of just being a guitar player or a musician. So that began my journey to brand myself. But I had an electrical accident.
Explain this electrical accident for us.
Basically, I received massive burns to my hands and face, and required skin grafts. It virtually killed JP's Eternia. We tried for a while, but it was done.
So JP's Eternia is done. You have had this massive trauma. What did you do?
During my recovery, I studied the business of making a living at making music. I decided that I wanted to be a music business operator.
Music business operator? That is a unique term. Did you coin that yourself? Or did you hear it somewhere?
I decided through my studies that music, well, the reproduction of music in a live or recorded situation, is nothing more than a creative product, yes, with some emotional attachment.
How did that change your outlook on your career and your playing in a band?
By looking at the service of providing live or recorded entertainment as just that, a service, I was able to focus, and instead of joining or starting bands, I decided to hire.
Hire? Hire who? Or hire what?
I decided to hire musicians as technicians. 'Cause when you take the emotional response that music instills in us, we really are just creative technicians, no different than a carpenter, electrician, commercial artist, jingle writer, or soundtrack composer. In order to get our music heard or our show seen, it generally needs a financial transaction.
So during your studies of the music business, did you see a correlation between the music industry and other industries?
Absolutely. In the 20s and 30s and 40s and even 50s there were music contractors, who would hire the musicians and contract the job. That is the position I have taken.
So here we are 13 years later after you started the John Paul Jones Group. Where are you going? What are your plans for the group?
My plan is to have the band continue to play the best blues, jazz, rock and fusion of the three genres. Currently we are looking for either a guitarist willing to play guitar, synthesizer, or a keyboard player. I don't play in bars, and I don't play long shows. Our shows are 2 hours each max. The John Paul Jones Group is not a bar band, but we will play.
So since you don't play bars, where are you willing to play?
Community events, festivals, private parties, large concert venues, theaters, biker alleys, outdoor shows of any kind between the months of May and September.
Well, how can we hear some of your music?
Currently we have a Facebook page with you hosting our animated series of demonstration videos, and a YouTube channel. Search for John Paul Group when you get to Facebook.
Mr. J.P. Jones, thank you for sitting down with me and sharing your musical endeavors with us. I wish you all the luck with your musical career and future.
Thank you, Eugene, and I hope to come back again. Maybe perform for the folks in the future. I will see you later.
So the name of the band is the John Paul Jones Group, and if you wish to have them perform at your next event, call 515-462-0455.